Hi there, and welcome to the Executive Code podcast, where we talk about everything to do with personal mastery. In the last episode, I re-released an episode that I recorded 2 years ago, and that was all about looking back over the year that we've just had. In this episode, I'm re-releasing the follow-up episode that I recorded again 2 years ago, which is about forward planning. The two episodes go hand in hand. One is looking back over the previous year, and then the next one is about how do we plan going forward for the year that we do want to actually have. So here's the episode as recorded 2 years ago. I spoke in the last episode about looking back over the past year before doing any forward planning at all in your life or your business or your career. And I really hope you did the exercise that I outlined in that episode. So now let's look at planning for the year ahead. But before we start, I want to let you in on a couple of secrets. Now, I do planning in a very different way to anybody that I know, and some of that will be nearly impossible to explain on a podcast. And I've always done my long-range planning in the last couple of weeks of December every single year. I don't know why, it's just always the way I've done my planning for as long as I can remember, both in my career and in my business. It's not even because it's the end of the year and it's close to the start of the new year. There's just something that I pick up intuitively at a particular time in December, and that's the time I do it. And I've always done it by incorporating different activities, which is also something I'm planning on doing for next year with the people that are going to be part of the Executive Lounge that I've created. So here's a couple of secrets which I know will upset a lot of people. Firstly, I don't plan. Secondly, I don't set goals in the way pretty much everyone else sets goals. Now, I wrote in my first book, Evolve, that when it comes to planning, we plan and God laughs. And I mentioned that in an earlier episode, that when it comes to writing my books or even what I say in my podcast, there are multiple levels and layers that I'm incorporating so that each time you read the book or listen to an episode, you get something different or deeper each time. So what do I mean when I say I don't plan? Well, I don't sit there and write down that a particular goal or an objective has to be achieved by a certain date and that it has to be achieved in a particular way. The difference is when it comes to planning, I set an intention or an outcome in a particular way, and then I hold that intention or that outcome. I don't work out how it's going to be achieved, which is something else I covered in my first book. You see, what most people do is they make a list of all the things that they want to achieve, and then they map it out over the coming months or years and how they're going to achieve those things. They list out all the actions that need to be done and what needs to happen. Now, that's applicable when you're in particular states of being that I outlined in earlier episodes. But once you get to the critical line, you might as well throw that practice out the window. And if you're managing staff and have projects to manage, then that's when planning and goal setting in the traditional way will help. But for individuals, no, absolutely not. If there's something that you want to achieve in life, that's when planning can actually get in your way. Next, when it comes to setting goals or objectives, the majority of people will follow the acronym which makes up a SMART goal or an objective, meaning that SMART refers to specific, measurable, actionable, relevant and time-based. Again, while that will work in certain circumstances, it's not going to work when you're at the critical line and above. Now, if you don't know what that critical line is that I'm referring to, then I suggest you go back to the episode in this podcast that I've called The Critical Line, and that's where I explain it. So let me tell you some of the reasons why I don't plan and I don't set SMART goals. Firstly, where's the fun in it? If you're going to live your life according to goals, planning and objectives, then really, what kind of life do you want to have? Where's the adventure, the expectation, the fun and the joy in it? When things change and different circumstances show up in your life, you have to change all your plans and your goals. And when things don't go according to plan, who gets upset? The plan or you? When you're operating in that way, you're operating from a small part of your brain. At the beginning of this podcast, I outlined the Executive Code, which is your executive center connected with your unconscious and connected with the superconscious. And you'll remember that I also said in an earlier episode that it's a two-way street between your executive center and your unconscious. And I also explained how vastly greater your unconscious and the superconscious is to your conscious mind. So why would you operate from your conscious mind alone? It doesn't make sense. Yet each time you plan and put together SMART goals, that's exactly what you're doing. When you're operating in that way, you're not following your guidance. You're not allowing yourself to be in flow. When you're planning, you're trying to take the lead. Your conscious mind is trying to take the lead. It's not about you taking the lead. I ask you again, which is more powerful, your conscious mind or your unconscious? So if you want to put a lot of work and effort into achieving your goals and objectives and your plans by cycling up a hill on a push bike, then by all means go right ahead. Or on the other hand, if you want to get the keys to the Ferrari, then you've got to do something different. And to start with, you've got to do your planning and setting objectives in a very, very different way. When you do that, then every day is like Christmas Day. You wake up with the expectation of the excitement of how it's all going to be revealed to you. Every day becomes like the present you expect on Christmas Day. Now, do things happen quicker than others? Yes, they do, but that's all part of the fun. Again, I gave a recent example of this on a previous episode. Ultimately, it gets down to how you want to live your life. It's a decision. Do you want a hard life or do you want an enjoyable life? And while nearly everyone will say that they want an enjoyable life, their actions say that they've chosen the hard life. So once you get the fundamentals about planning on objectives and how you do both in the way you're meant to do them, then life becomes a whole lot easier and a lot more fun. It's what I teach my clients. But for now, let me go through some of the areas you might consider setting plans and objectives around. Now, when it comes to your business, I have a business assessment that I go through each year, and I encourage my clients to go through it for their business also. And if you want to get your hands on that business assessment, just send me an email and I'll send you a copy. It's one that you do every year and it highlights what you need to focus on within your own business in order to make it an outstanding business. So let me go through a few other things that you can consider if you're going to do plans or goals and objectives for the year ahead. Firstly, take a calendar where you can see the full year on one page. And if you don't have one, there's lots of online resources that you can search for and you can download. But ultimately what you want to have is that you've got a full year on one page as a calendar view. So when you have that, start to mark in all the dates of your birthdays, anniversaries, and other significant dates that are going to take place in the year. Then mark in when you want to take your holidays. Then make a list of all the experiences that you want to enjoy and have throughout the year, and then mark a date in the calendar as to when would be best for you to have those experiences. Now, there are the dates that take priority in your calendar for the year ahead. You see, what most people do is they mark in all the other dates like timelines they need to meet for business or tax return dates and so on. In essence, they put everything else first before they put themselves first. And then they wonder why they're unhappy in their life. So then when you have all the most important dates marked in your calendar, take each of the 7 areas of life, which are your business or career, wealth, health, relationships, social, mind, and spiritual. And as you review each area, write down or preferably journal how you want that area of your life to be like. Describe it as best you can. A bit like if you were writing a letter to your parents describing what your life is like, except you're describing each of the 7 areas of your life and what it's like. So now you have the calendar with all the important dates for yourself marked in it, and you have a vision of what you want each of the 7 areas of life to be like. Now go through each of the 7 areas again and ask yourself under these 4 headings what it is that you want. So what is it that you want to stop doing? What is it that you want to do more of? What is it that you want to do less of? And what is it that you want to start doing? And list down as much as you want under each one of those 4 headings for each of the 7 areas of your life. Now they become your intentions and your objectives for the year ahead. So there's just a few things that you can consider as you plan for the year ahead. 1, decide if you want to do planning and goal setting in the old way, which ultimately is the harder way, or if you want to do it in a better way. And if you want to do it in a better way, then please reach out to me and I'll teach you. Secondly, if you want to get a copy of the business assessment workbook that I mentioned, then just send me an email and I'll send you one. You can send me an email to paul@paulwilliamdavis.com. And thirdly, get a calendar where you can see the full year on one page and mark in all the personally important dates. And of course, it's up to you to decide as regards what you want to do for each of those dates and if you want to do something special. Number 4, go through each of the 7 areas of life and write down a description of what you want each area to be like. And number 5, go through each area again and write down what you want to stop doing, what you want to do more of, what you want to do less of, and what is it you want to start doing. In that way, you're going to have the foundations for a great plan for the year ahead and to make the next year your best year ever. So have a think about each one of those 5 steps, and I would encourage you to do the exercise. But for now, with the week that's in it, I want to wish you an amazing Christmas full of fun, joy, laughter, and of course health. So best wishes and Merry Christmas to you and your loved ones.